Howdy, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of The Hub, where we talk politics from the previous week. And we've got our guest today is Rory Respicio, who is the campaign manager of the Lou and Josh campaign.
Morning, Nestor.
Yeah, we got Dr. Ron McNinch of the University of Guam, and of course Juan Carlos, the Republican Party chairman. Let me start out and with Juan Carlos, because you were at the event last night hosted by Mike Nicholas and Sabrina Salas Matanani, an appreciation party for their supporters. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think part of it is, as people know, I was a Madeline's supporter when she was running for Congress, and the San Nicolas beat her. And so at the beginning, I was very critical about his work, and he reached out to me and said, "Look, instead of fighting each other, why don't we try to work together on resolving some of these issues?" We started with war reparations, and we ended up building a good relationship and getting good things done for Guam. You know, we supported the SSI increase, supplemental Social Security, to apply to the island. We went after the getting Guam companies to be recognized at the same level as Hawaiian and Alaskan Native corporations, and those two are still in the inkwell. We're still fighting for them. But we were able to get the war reparations done. We were able to increase the Medicaid funding and the Medicaid cap by including the Micronesians and the guys from the Free Associated States. So it was a good event. I congratulate them on running a clean and good campaign, and it really got us an opportunity to talk to their supporters and say, please look at our camp and the candidates that are running on our side. I think you're going to find a lot of things in common between you all and us.
Yeah, what we really wanted to get at is everyone was waiting to see what he would say, what his statement would be with regard to who he would be supporting. I think it was kind of a tacit endorsement, if you will, of Felix and Tony.
Yeah, I would say, I definitely would say he is not supporting the Lou and Josh campaign. I think he releases his supporters to go where they feel it should be, but there was a commitment to, we're trying to look for change, and if you're trying to look for change, you should participate in the election process in November, and you should support a candidate that is supportive of change.
Yeah. And Rory, I think his statement was actually to the effect of do not vote for Lou and Josh. Your reaction?
Well, first, I'm sure that Mike Nicholas would wanted Juan Carlos Benitez endorsement in the primary election, given everything that he said. But Nestor, we're not surprised at last night's event. Both Mike Nicholas and Felix Camacho, former Governor Camacho, they have a history built on convenience rather than a genuine belief in each other. And so we weren't surprised at all. But given what the governor, Lou and Lieutenant Governor Josh has done, and the entire Lou and Josh campaign village organization, immediately following the primary, they are respecting Mike Nicholas's request for the time and the space to deal with his family and with what his next steps are. But notwithstanding, we've been hitting the ground running. We've been reaching out to all of the voters on Guam, disaffected Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and alike, just everyone continuing to make the strong case on why 4 more years moves our island forward. Versus not voting for Lou and Josh means going back in reverse. Yeah. And that's the kind of campaign that we've been able to present from the very beginning.
Ron, let me go back to Juan Carlos. He had something to say.
Yeah, you know, it is hard to try to unite a party when you've had probably one of the ugliest primary races I've seen in my life, where all the leadership of the Democratic Party have taken sides on the fight. You know, I even wonder, a number of them had told people that if Mike would have won, they would have resigned from the office. So it is not surprising for anybody that he did not come and give a glowing endorsement or support to a candidate that has been honestly throwing slander and allegations against him and his followers.
Not true. See, I don't know how Juan Carlos continues to come on your show, Nestor, go on all these different medias, talking about the Democratic Party of Guam when he's here to represent the GOP. And the things that he says that the Democrats have been doing, the things that he says the Lou and Josh campaign have been doing are further from the truth. We won a very clean campaign. Governor Lou, Lieutenant Governor Josh Even when the ethics complaints came out against Congressman Nicholas and how that matter was referred to the Department of Justice and he's under investigation, he has this clout over him. It wasn't Governor Liu that talked about this at the debate. It was Mike Nicholas who brought this out himself when he talked about those are the unsubstantiated allegations, and the governor retorted and responded by saying, well, I'm talking about substantiated allegations. And so for Juan Carlos to keep trying to run put a divide between not even the Democratic Party, because we get support from all walks of life. We want to stick to the record, and when we want to stick to the record, you have Juan Carlos in the GOP saying, oh, and you have Governor Camacho saying, don't judge me when I was governor because Lulian Guerrero is the one up for re-election. The referendum is on the administration. And for all this call for change, granted, there was a 40% voter turnout, 60% voted for Lou and Josh, 40% voted for Mike Nicholas and Sabrina Salas Mantanani. I think that Lou and Josh are change agents. I think they are voting for Lou and Josh because they want change, and the status quo is not acceptable. When she walked into a governorship, she had a mounting deficit. Tax-free funds had to be borrowed in order to be paid. She's eliminated the debt. She's made sure that tax-free funds are paid within 4 weeks. She's made sure that there's fair and transparency and accountability throughout all facets of the government. And talk about accountability. My day job is really port general manager, but I signed leave to be on your show because that's the kind of people we are, and that's the kind of government they insist on. And you can keep talking about how the Democrats are divided, but take a look at how the Governor Leon Guerrero, Lieutenant Governor Josh, has been able to unite this community even post-pandemic.
Right.
Unemployment is 5%. Tourists are coming back. 70% occupancy rate in the hotels. Let's talk about those records, Juan Carlos,
Right.
and let's stick to those facts.
Let me bring Ron into the conversation. So Mike's speech last night, it was not a specific endorsement of Felix and Tony, but it was an indictment of the Lou and Josh campaign. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Shakespeare would have said, the lady doth protest too much, meaning that, yeah, that's the game. That's the game that people are playing. For me, when I look at it, I think there's 22 solid points on the Republican side, 25 solid points on the Democrat side. Then there's 53 points that are going to be all over the place during the next 9 weeks. And whoever can pull that remaining 20 to 28 points into their camp is going to win. And to me, it's just that simple. The question is it going to be the current incumbent who has the home ground advantage? Is it going to be the former governor who has a huge, a comparable organization on his side? So this is really an interesting race because it's been a long time since we've had this kind of matchup.
Juan Carlos, do you expect that Michael San Nicolas and Sabrina Salas Mantanani will be actively campaigning for Felix and Tony, or will they just continue to say, supporters vote your conscience?
Yeah, my expectation is Congressman San Nicolas will go back to D.C. and continue to do the work that that we've been working on. There's a Medicaid cliff coming up in this December that we need to address as an island. We need to start looking at seeing if we can get the parity for the local companies to be treated the same. So my thought with San Nicolas, he's going to be in D.C., he's going to be doing the work that he's going to be doing there. Whether he's going to be involved in politics locally or not, that's up to him. I have not have any conversation with him on it.
So there's not been any formal conversation about him maybe, being out there and taking photos and like Frank Huggen did, or anything of that sort?
Not with me. I was there, and I think yesterday was a celebration of the clean campaign that they try to run, and the fact of the way that we perceive the individuals. I hold him in high esteem. He's done a great job. I think he's been the amount of bills that have been going through Congress is something to be recognized when you compare it to prior records of former congressmen.
Yeah, Rory, what's your read on that?
Well, he could say whatever may or may not happen. But for me, I think that Mike Nicholas would, of course, go back to D.C. He has some work to finish, but he also has a lot on his plate. He has to deal with the Department of Justice, and he has to work hard to clear his name if he believes his name is cleared. And our prayers go out to him and his family, and we wish them well. That's the only thing that we should be doing in the kind of community that we live here on Guam, where we should be talking about love and not hate. And that's the contrast. I think Lou and Josh's campaign is all about inclusion. It's about bringing people together. It's about moving forward on ideas and building on progress to continue for 4 more years. The Republicans are meddling in what they want to do to drive a wedge. Last night's event was an appreciation party to show appreciation to the Mike and Bree supporters, and yet they show up. The Republican operatives show up. I don't think that translates well. I don't think that's the humane thing to do. And I think if the congressman is asking for space and the time to figure his next steps, I think it's honorable that Governor Leon Guerrero has honored that. He hasn't conceded yet. She's not expecting a concession speech. She's moving forward. Nonetheless, she's been moving forward. Even the morning of the primary election, when she gave her remarks to everyone, she said, I'm going to continue to reach out. Josh and I will do what we can to solidify our Lou and Josh supporters. But she told the people that were there, she said, if the now that the primary's been decided, we just have to start from ground zero, and we just have to talk to everyone and let everybody know that they have a home in Lou and Josh. And even to the Nicholas Salas Mantanani supporters, even to those who supported Camacho Etta in the primary, Nestor, they saw the debate, they may have changed their mind, and they need to come over to us, because this is the team that's going to keep moving our island forward, and that's the contrast that we're providing.
Ron, who do you think is going to get Mike St. Nicholas, Sabrina Salas Matanani votes?
I think this is going to be a hard-fought race. You have 2 tough sides. I had to sit between these 2 guys tonight, okay? I mean, that's the reality. I mean, they're both good friends, but there's a lot of heavy-duty feelings going on here. This is going to be a very emotional election, and it depends on where those emotions fall. And it's going to be a very neat and tough race. This is not going to be a walk-away race for anybody, I don't think.
Rory brought up the concession, and he specifically said he would not be conceding.
Yeah, but he didn't commit to the Democrat side either. So he doesn't concede or commit to really anything. And I don't mean to sound negative about him when I say that, but that's just the way Mike appears to be politically. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's a very old tradition for mavericks and young Turks in our political system, and I think he fits into that genre. And by the way, Mike, regardless of what happens in this election cycle, he has a really solid future for Guam politics anyway. And so this is a part of that future for him.
Yeah. Juan Carlos, you got any thoughts on that? The fact that he said he was not going to be conceding at all.
Yeah, I think you need to give people their room, and I think the idea is focus on work and try to figure out how we can work together to get this island into a better location. It's funny that the Democratic Party is saying let's unite, but they keep bringing up this allegation like if they think that the FBI is really going to bring out any charges against him. Everybody knows they're not.
Yeah.
I think it's very clear who brought it up. And he's saying let them have space, but yet he went to an appreciation party that was not for him.
I got invited. I don't know about you. I got invited. I didn't show up there on my own without an invitation.
To touch on your point, and I've spoken to a lot of politicians and political candidates, and to lose it is very painful.
It is painful.
It is a very painful thing. I think Rory, you're the only one that's actually held office, and
And I've lost after
and you've lost,
7 consecutive terms.
and that's a very difficult pill to swallow. I mean, it's something you normally take personally. Do you think that maybe Mike's attitude will evolve over the next few weeks, or is that pretty much going to stick what he's said last night throughout the rest of the campaign and into the November 8th general election?
Winning and losing elections change people, and it changed the perception that you do. You run for office, particularly in Guam, because of your convictions of what you believe in. And when you lose, there's this, you're running because you feel that you can make a difference for the people. And when you feel rejection by the population, it's hard to take. In this particular case, and I try to highlight this to him, this is the largest votes ever getting against an incumbent in the history of Guam. no challenger against a sitting governor have ever received 40% of the vote. And it was a good race. It was fought, but it's a hard race to win. You know, particularly $1 million in expenditure versus barely $60,000. You know, it's hard to do. He went all digital. He tried a new concept into how to get the vote out. We got to look at that and then see how we move forward. In his case, my expectation is this is going to be months of hard soul searching, and he'll decide where his future is soon.
All right, we got to take a short break, and we'll be back with more of The Hub right after this. All right, welcome back, everyone. We want to continue our discussion. Let's talk about the debate. The one before the Chamber of Commerce, the first face-off between the two candidates so far. One of, I guess, the first in, I guess, will be a series of face-offs. Rory, what stood out to you for Governor Liu? What would you consider the highlights of the debate for her?
Well, we know that she did an excellent job, Nestor, because she stuck to the facts and she stuck to the record. It's not so much what she did and how she performed. She did an exceptional job. But what stood out for me was former Governor Camacho. At the same time, he talks about taking the high road. I mean, in watching the debate, you saw how many dings he took at her, how many times he called her a dictator, what he said that with $2 billion, even Mickey Mouse can do a better job. And then in his closing, he said for her to remove the scale from her eyes and the plugs in her ears. And so immediately following that, Governor Liu shared with me and others that, you know, when they went up to shake hands, she told him that, Felix, I know you don't believe those things that you just said about me. And then she also did a media interview to give her own reaction toward the debate, how, you know, she stuck to the facts, she stuck to the record. And you can judge a person in what they're going to do in office based on what they've done. And for the things that Governor Camacho has said, to be anti-lockdown, that the pandemic shut businesses down, Governor Liu shut businesses down, you know, it's the pandemic that caused all those things, but where are we at today? And what struck out for me is that Governor Camacho, former Governor Camacho, was basically criticizing all the people that needed the government's help during the pandemic, saying people were just taking money and staying home, and that if he were governor, he would have them working out to clean up the island, and so, you know, chastising the people who received government assistance, including the business community who received the assistance, and the $2.2 billion that was pushed out. Those are the things that struck out in my mind, and how the debate provided the kind of contrast that our voters need about whether we're going to move forward or whether we're going to go back in reverse.
Juan Carlos, what were the highlights in the debate for you?
Well, I think that Governor Felix Camacho showed that he has a large commitment for this race, and that he has a lot of energy, and he's going to come out and address the issues specifically that he feels are making a difference for this island, or where his difference lies between him and Governor León Guerrero. And it was made clear from the opening to the closing of the debate. You saw the stark contrast in their way of looking at Guam's economy, the drug crisis and epidemic we're living through, the crime concerns and issues that we're facing. But so for me, that was the highlight. It was just seeing the big contrast, and now the people are able to decide where do they want to go and what do they believe or not. You know, personally, I'm on the board of Catholic Social Services, so when she brought about the homelessness and how few homeless are here, a lot of the reason for the lower numbers is because of a lot of federal programs that were brought here during the federal legislation, not through the governor's legislation. And we all know, and we're dealing with the reality that come September, those programs end. And we need to figure out how we're going to put and add those beds back on, or how we're going to try to subsidize the programming. Meanwhile, we also have to deal with some of the programs that the government took back from us and said that they don't want us to run them anymore. And now the homelessness for the program for beds for disabled and an elderly recovery center. You know, we came in, the government took it back. They closed it. They closed the program. It's not open. They're saying they're going to maybe do a bid to reopen it in September. We can look at it. But right now, we've already had 4 patients that we wanted to refer over that had no place to go. So if you're asking me, we have a homelessness problem. You might try to say you don't. I completely disagree. We have a crime problem and we have a drug problem. And for me, that comes out of a sign of hopelessness of the people. Drugs is what you take when you have no hope of getting back your job or being able to pay your bills and find a home. That's a problem that's created under this administration that they need to face at some point. Driving here today, I saw a homeless man leaving in a car, a veteran. You know, I went in and said, look, I lost my house. I'm in a car. I just came out this morning. Look by the bowling alley. You'll see 2 or 3 of them. You know, to try to address that we don't have a problem and that it's already been taken care of, it's shallow. And that, for me, was where the biggest contrast came in.
Okay, we got to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Ron's take on the debate right after this.
All right.
As the Decision 2022 race shapes up, keep it with KUAM News for all the news you need to know as you head to the polls. From weekly candidate profile analysis on the Hub on KUAM News Hotspot to our online candidate directory on KUAM.com, special features on KUAM Digital and KUAM News Primetime, plus live coverage of forums and debates. We're your one-stop source on every platform. Stay informed with KUAM News, your news leader, the voice of the Marianas. All right, we're back, and let me get to you, Ron. What is your take on that debate? Was there a good a chance to compare and contrast between the two?
Oh, thank you. Well, first, congratulations to the Guam Chamber of Commerce. Great event.
Yeah.
Good events like that, good community service doesn't simply fall out of the sky. And so kudos to them. And I think both parties would greatly appreciate. That's the common ground here at the table, I think, today. In general, every candidate for office, if they don't make it, they wonder, what could I have done different? In this case, we have 2 either incumbents or recent former incumbents that ask that same question. What is the great unfinished work that they wanted to do and they still want to be in office to try to do? So it's an unfinished work question, which is really the true legacy question. So Governor Camacho had a lot of things he wanted to do as governor. He never was able to get done because of time. Governor Leon Guerrero has a lot of things she wants to do. She wants more time to do it. And so they both have a lot in common in that regard. And so really all the exchanges and the back and forth at that debate over what they did and didn't do really doesn't matter. It's the potentiality of what they're going to do if they get elected for 4 more years, because both of them have unfinished work.
There was one issue that stood out to me, and we're talking about contrast, and that was one thing that Felix said about, Governor, all you do is want to give to make people reliant on government. And then the governor, Leon Guerrero, came back and said, no, that's not give, that's being humane. Your thoughts on that?
Our thoughts precisely. In one hand, he's criticizing her for giving out all these assistance. What is he saying to the people who needed it? That they should not have received these assistance, that they should have gone out and worked? And so that's the contrast. And then, very quickly, the governor did not say we don't have a homelessness problem. She said we do. And she credited Lieutenant Governor Josh for his work with the Guam Homeless Coalition and other nonprofit, even faith-based organizations. But the governor's point throughout the whole debate was, okay, Felix, you had 8 years to do this. All the things you're talking about, you had 8 years. I have 3.5 years, 2 years of which were during a pandemic. And so she's been able to show a tremendous amount of work of what she's been able to do in the last 3.5 years to make the case for 4 more years. And we just have to look at the records.
Okay, we're going to take one more break, and then we'll wind up with you, Juan Carlos. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
You're not going to give Ron this time?
All right, we're running out of time, but we do have about 2 minutes left to get to Juan Carlos and talk about that one exchange between the 2 governors that I mentioned.
Right. And I would say, first of all, if you want to see in black and white what Governor Felix Camacho and Tony Atta are going to achieve when they become governor of Guam, Just go to their Facebook website and you will see 26 pages of specific facts and issues that they're going to be pushing and working on as soon as they get in. With regards, it's where they were going is you have an infrastructure that you need to rebuild and maintain in this island. And when it's come to this governor, she first of all withheld a lot of the funds, only provided funding for public employees. The rest of the funds were federal funds that were coming from Washington that were being fought hard by Congressman St. Nicholas, by me, and we kept wondering why the governor wasn't going to D.C. or participating in a lot of these efforts, but she received that largesse of federal funds in here. Now, the problem is, how do you spend those funds and how do you use those funds? There were many different ways in which you could have done it. You could have ended up giving the funding to the private industry so they would maintain and pay the salaries of their employees, so when they wanted to come back, those employees would be there and available. Instead, she closed those businesses. She ordered them to be closed. She closed our streets and said, stay home. I'm going to give you the money to stay home and not work at our facility. That's not what you want to do. That's what brings us into the situation we're facing today, where a lot of the businesses are trying to get back those employees who took that money and left Island.
All right. That's it. We're out of time, unfortunately. But we'll
alternate
bring you back
facts.
for sure. We'll bring you back, and we can continue this dialogue because we got a couple of more months before the general election. So that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week right here on The Hub.
Yeah, I'll give you the last